It's the Security Weekly News, and it's the first day of October, if you could believe that. It's episode 418. Welcome to the week of 29 September 2024, and now you can put up your Halloween decorations and take down your St. Isidore's Day decorations. You put those up still, right? I mean, like, I hope so. Anyway, okay. We got Death Stars, Recall, Microsoft, Brocade, AI, Josh Marpet, and lots more on the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. In 2024, the future of identity, security, and digital transformation converges at Octane, hosted by Okta. On October 15th through 17th, join the brightest minds in tech and business in Las Vegas or online as they explore groundbreaking innovations and unveil the latest Okta solutions to keep your organization secure, connected, and ahead of the curve. Whether you're a developer, an IT or security leader, or a visionary, Octane is your gateway to transforming tomorrow today. Security Weekly listeners only need to pay $100 for your full conference pass for Octane by using the discount code OKTNSC24 at securityweekly.com/Octane2024. And you can stream the event live on okta.com/Octane. ThreatLocker implements a least privileged approach to cybersecurity, blocking every executable unless specifically authorized by your team. This methodology mitigates ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, and ensures 24/7, 365.25 protection for your organization. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent known and unknown threats in your digital environment, safeguard your data and operations from threat actors, and align your organization with respected compliance frameworks, visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. All right, from exile on the island of Elba, we're back, and it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the show. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment on your favorite platform, or you will force me to go back into a life of debauchery and decadence. Oh, wait. Okay. Do it anyway. All right. More news on my favorite terrifying AI feature of the year, maybe of all time, maybe ever in the history of the human race. It's Microsoft Recall. Yeah, it's already been recalled several times to improve the security, which was supposed to be perfect in the first place. You know, way back in May when they were going like, the security is great. Oh, wait, here's an update. I mean, you know, so this week, yet another set of upgrades to quote, provide stronger default protection for user data and tighter access controls, because apparently they weren't great in the first place. Oh, come on. But they did add, so they did patch the ability to remove it, apparently, which would be the first thing I would do in any case. But I mean, basically, if you don't know what this thing is, or if you're first hearing about it, like I fear for you. But if you don't know what it is, it's a system that Microsoft has been touting since early this year that takes a screenshot of your system every so many seconds and analyzes them, quote, on device using a, quote, neural processing unit and a, quote, AI, if that doesn't scare you already. Then this info is added to an SQLite database on the unit, again, I guess on locally, which would technically, for some mysterious reason I don't understand, allow you to search all your screenshots using natural language to find important information. Now, I don't know exactly what that important information might be, but back in May, Microsoft assured us that this was great. It was going to be life-changing. It would never be compromised, and then they released an update, and then another update, both security updates, mind you. All of this in response to the general fervor and outcry of, I don't want this, please get it away from me before, I'm going to get a flamethrower out. Now, I've seen Windows NT 4.0, thank you very much. That was supposedly safe too. So, your bank account info, it's in there because you accessed your bank, right? those pics from your trip to the nude beach with your cousins at Saint Tropez that you really want to forget. But yeah, that's in there too because you were looking at it, right? What if your company owns a device? I mean, well, can they access this? Can they just say, I want, and I need Sam Kinnison's voice for this, but like, I can't do it. But like, oh my God, who would use this feature? I mean, if they sent me a machine like this, I would literally lock it in the safe out of fear because, I am super boring. I don't have any screen. Like if you look at all my 6 screens right now, it's pretty boring. But I don't really want all those screenshots in there. And you'd get a picture of Josh Marpet because he's on one of my screens right now. So there'd be a snapshot of him without his permission being stored in my database and analyzed by neural nets and AIs. I mean, I just don't like this idea. And I don't understand the point. I mean, okay, I was looking for a new chair this morning. What are they going to do with that? I mean, GT Omega, I'm looking at you to be a chair sponsor. Come on, folks. But I mean, to be fair, to Microsoft, they have allegedly added the ability to filter sensitive information like your passwords and credit card numbers because those were going to be in there too. They also said they were going to somehow filter other personal information like, your middle name. They also added in this latest update, the ability they made it default to opt in instead of you're just going to use this whether you like it or not. And if you don't forget and turn it off. Now they claim that nothing from this system is going to be shared with Microsoft or any other third parties, and that it will not be shared between users on the same device. Now, I'm thinking, okay, so if 3 people are using the device and they've all got snapshots every 5 seconds and those things are being analyzed, how big is this database going to be in, say, like 6 weeks? Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe they've got some kind of pruning mechanism to keep it from, like, oh, your hard drive is full again. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to be happy until this thing is uninstalled, buried in an iron box with a stake through its heart and a brick in its mouth. It's supposedly going to start rolling out to insiders that have and you have to have a Copilot Plus PC. So if you don't have one of those, it doesn't matter anyway. But it's supposedly going to start rolling out to people that are on that subscribers to Insider in October. Yeah. I could do a whole show ranting about this thing because I have never seen anything that worried me so much as this. But hey, you be you. And hey, since it's Let's Bash Microsoft Day anyway, let's just bash Microsoft. Microsoft has issued a warning that some Windows 11 systems may enter reboot loops or blue screens of death situations if you install the September 2024 update. Now, a day after the update rolled out, this issue was added to their known issues on Friday, and they said that Win 11, 22H2, and 23H2 users might have this problem, which would pretty much be everyone, right? I mean, they said it can trigger the automatic recovery tool, or the one we all love to see, that BitLocker recovery screen where it's like, please enter your BitLocker recovery key. And you're like, I think I wrote that down somewhere. But hey, now it would be in my recall database, right? Except I can't get to it because of the blue screen of death. Yeah, I could say, hey, recall, do you have all that secret information I wasn't supposed to put anywhere? Yes, you do. Great. Oh, I couldn't get it from my system, but I just went on the dark web and downloaded the whole database. Yeah, that kind of thing. But they said they're investigating the issue and they will let you know when they have a fix. But in the meantime, hey, good luck. Or install Linux. Might be the day to do that. But hey, be sure and trust Microsoft with a screenshot of your desktop every 5 seconds because that is perfectly safe and is only in patch Rev 3 at this point. So I'm sure it'll be fine. All right. The U.S. government indicted a co-owner of a Minnesota IT company. I just thought the story was funny. It's a Minnesota IT company for participation in an international conspiracy to sell forged license keys for certain networking devices. Now, I was already laughing about this, but then I found that it was actually pretty serious. 3 people were running a scheme between 2014 and 2022 to sell counterfeit software license keys for Brocade switches. Now, if you don't know what Brocade is, and you may not, but Brocade is a California-based network vendor that makes they have a very niche market. They focus on what they call critical environments, such as the government, hospitals, and educational institutes. So these are switches that people buy to put in prisons and hospitals and military bases and all this kind of stuff. Brocade switch licenses run from around $1,400 for the bare minimum with very small number of ports to over $100,000 per switch, depending on what feature set and scaling that you need. So, when you're running something pretty big like a hospital, you're going to have some pretty expensive licensing. Now, this group used specialized tools to crack the license code generator and then made new fake keys and sold at least 3,637 forged licenses for prices that were insane. Now, Brocade said this resulted in and this range is weird, 5 to 363 million. I'm like, okay, now there's an estimate for you. Somewhere between 0 and infinity is how much we lost. 5 million to 363 million. I guess depending on who you ask, I'm not sure. Pretty good range. But the penalty for this is a fine of up to $250,000 per count and twice the amount of financial gain or loss from the offense, as well as some years in the old clink. Now, 2 of the conspirators pled out, and each pled to 1 count of conspiracy to commit access device fraud. Boy, there's something you want to share in prison, right? What'd you do? Oh, I killed and ate, 36 people at a highway rest stop. And like, oh yeah, I'm guilty of that old conspiracy to commit access device fraud. Yeah, but watch out, I'm crazy. But basically, that would be a $250,000 fine and 5 years in jail plus 15 years in jail. But those two got that, and then my guess is they're testifying against a third party. Yeah, okay. None of them were. One guy was 75 years old, so I'm like, enjoy prison. Oh, I guess nobody really enjoys prison, I guess, except sociopaths. Maybe have a good time. I don't know. I mean, I've never been to prison, surprisingly enough, but we all know how that works. The governor of California vetoed SB 1047, which was a Senate bill that had passed the Senate of California, which was planning to place alleged safety testing on developers of AI models and make the developers civilly liable for AI-related, and this is my favorite thing of all time, they're civilly liable for, listen to this, AI-related mass casualty events or incidents which cause more than $500 million in damages. I was like, so what is this exactly? Like an AI-generated end of the world incident or something? 500 million in damage. I'm like, of course, I don't know. In California, that probably means they wrecked a couple of parked cars, but who knows? But anyway, I don't know what an AI mass casualty event is, but it sounds pretty damn bad. And 500 million in damages. Well, that also sounds pretty bad, but who knows? I mean, what are these AI developers in California working on anyway? But anyway, so before they even voted on this, and it started off being this like focus on AI security and privacy, they immediately got beset upon by lobbyists and so forth who wanted them to remove everything from it. So they removed criminal liabilities, because they don't want anybody to be prosecuted for, bad AI. And they finally basically focused the whole bill on a bunch of theoretical futuristic problems rather than any currently realistic threats. So basically Terminators, somewhere off out in the future, Terminators. We're worried about that. Now, the people that were interviewed said the bill was a disaster and that even though it had good intentions. Now, California has passed and signed 17 pieces of legislation related to deepfakes, AI watermarking, and AI-generated misinformation this month. But this one was a bit much. It only focused on silly extreme models at extreme dollar levels, which don't even exist currently. And the people that were interviewed about it said it failed to deal with any real threats from AI today. It sounded like one of those bills that were written by people that don't want a law, but know they have to have a law. So they want to make the law such that it doesn't really do much of anything. Like, you can sue a tobacco company if you get lung cancer, but only if you can demonstrate you smoked more than 10 packs of unfiltered cigarettes a day for 40 years, and you need to have video proof of that. So there you go. You got your law. You're safe now. But, I mean, basically, I think it'll get revised down to maybe something else. But, how about, hey, federal government, how about a few privacy bills to protect the rest of us, pathetic serfs here? But, hey, you keep your mass casualty event. I'll start coding today. All right. A study by the U.S. General Services Administration, which is called the GSA, found that 5 remote identity verification technologies are, I love this, unreliable, inconsistent, and marred by bias. Imagine that. Racist apps, but they don't even work. Now, of these products they were testing, only 2 of the products they tested were actually equitable for all users. So they did find 2 that were not racially biased, but 2 others had higher rejection rates for Black participants and individuals with any sort of darker skin tones. The 5th one was better, apparently, but it still failed testing with Asian American and Pacific Islander participants. Yeah. Now, one of the products was described by the GSA as barely functional and had false negatives around 50%. So you could just hire a really, really stupid security guard and have them toss a coin and go, let them in or not, 50% of the time. And the best outcome software they found, it still failed 10% of the time. Now, look, I know facial recognition is a holy grail. I know everybody wants it. They want a way to say, I can absolutely tell. They want a way to spot people on the street that may be doing bad things and whatever. And I don't disagree with that, but it doesn't work. Remote identity verification is a big deal, and it usually requires you to have a photo in a database somewhere, some kind of, identity. You may have to go in and sign something or whatever, because otherwise it's just a big mess. But the GSA runs the U.S. government's login.gov service, really. And they said they were testing and adopting this kind of identity recognition ASAP. They did not say which of the dreadful products they were actually using, but it's apparently available. So they said the final peer-reviewed version of this study would be released in 2025. It's just not a good approach, and it should probably only be used in conjunction with some other approach, because I remember a guard looking at my badge photo, then looking up at my face, and then looking at my badge photo again, and then saying, okay, then I could put my finger on the scanner and have my fingerprint read to see if I was, legit. A lot of people want this technology, but I don't think it's there yet. I mean, it's definitely scary. Sorry, VMware, you're done. I love you, but it's over. It's not you, it's me. Actually, it's you. Broadcom bought VMware, back earlier, and they seem to be intent at this point on sending it straight into the dustbin of history. AT&T is now claiming that Broadcom made it an offer for their new licenses for VMware that has a 1,050% increase in the license price. And the license price of VMware was already astronomical. I mean, I got a quote from them once for an actual commercial version. I had an academic license, but I had a commercial quote, and I was like, wait, what? Yeah, no, that's never going to happen. And but they said AT&T said that Broadcom seemed to be trying to influence other vendors to make migration off the platform very difficult. Imagine that. Now, they've denied this, of course. Now, I use VMware in my classes for years and had students doing projects on them and so forth. But then Broadcom came along and basically on about 1 week's notice said, sorry, buddy, no more academic licenses at all. But we will give you the opportunity to jump on the full fare express. My increase in price would have been around, well, let's just say infinity. I was paying almost nothing for these licenses, and now they want me to pay like $250,000 or something. I was like, yeah, okay, let me just get my checkbook out, because my budget for this is about, nothing. So aloha. They'll probably spend $1 billion or so in legal fees fighting, but the rest of us are now using Proxmox. So bye. Now, since so many of our friends in North Carolina and Tennessee got hit with a hurricane, which, what? When I first saw that headline, I was like, is this The Onion? I was like, hurricane hits Asheville? Like, wait, no, that's the Smoky Mountains. That's not near the ocean, but it did. So I did put this article up for you because I thought you might want to share it with some of your people. I mean, it's always tough to plan for everything. And, and I don't think there were a lot of people, in Asheville, North Carolina, or Gatlinburg, Tennessee, thinking about hurricanes taking out the roads and bridges, but it did. And I think personally, one of the worst things is water. I mean, water is terrifying, and I've seen it work. But I mean, I lived in Colorado where we had the monsoon every autumn, and it was like crazy. But I mean, it's mostly about water and tech, right? I mean, according to World Health Organizations, the most common type of disaster is flooding. So one of the things our enterprise friends should always be asking themselves is, where is your tech? Is your data center below the water table, below street level? Yeah, and you live in Manhattan and you're surrounded by the ocean. Yeah, that's probably a bad idea. And I did a bunch of audits where I found that exact thing to be true. They're like, "Yeah, we put it down in the basement. We thought it would be safest." And I'm like, "Really? Is that the Chicago River? Is that what that is over there?" That yeah. Exactly. Is that the Hudson River that I can see out the front? Yeah, okay, that's probably not the best thing. But at home even, think about how you're going to protect your critical devices as well, because you probably use all these things now. Now, I was going to give you one of my big tips, which they did mention in this article. We always had gallon size, we still do, gallon sized Ziploc bags in our forensics kits. I always took them. I have another really good one too. It's called a sailing bag or a deck bag. If you've ever seen one of those, it's literally a bag that you roll the top of it down and it's got like a nice little strap and you lock it and it's waterproof and it floats. And I used to always have those on sailboats and things. And I have them here at home. Still got one right next door here. But also think about power, because if you're so reliant on your devices now, how do I escape? Which route should I take? Which bridges are out? Oh, how do I get to Waze? And you're standing like waist deep in water, like some of these crazy videos you've been seeing, and you're holding your phone in waist deep water. If you drop it, you probably don't have a handy bag of rice and, say 48 hours to try to dry it out. But I mean, basically, you also need power, which also doesn't mix with water very well. So if there is a flood, you may not be able to drag the old generator out of the shed and fire it up. Now, I live on a hill, so I'll be up here smoking a cigar and drinking a gin and tonic and watching all you poor sods flounder around in the mud. But, how are you going to charge your devices after 48 hours? I mean, we have emergency batteries, and I even have a hand crank charger if you want a forearm workout, so you can also be a sailor. But, a big power battery's handy. I have one that does like 4 full iPhone charges. It's pretty nice. And I have a solar charger in a bag out here somewhere. Of course, I'll have to get all that while the water's pouring in, but I've done that before. But anyway, another thing to do is put your phone numbers in your device. Like when I used to ski by myself in the middle of nowhere, I always had the Eagle County Sheriff, the ski patrol, and a couple of locals I knew who, if they were sober enough, might come look for your remains because you might have something valuable on you. But mostly think about it. And this is really what I'm asking you to hear. This is an interesting article to make you think. What do you depend on? Google Maps? Can you figure out, how to get from your place to somewhere else without using Waze? I mean, a lot of us maybe can't now. And what's the phone number for the local sheriff's office? When, and what are you going to do if your phone doesn't work at all? The cell tower is underwater. Do you have another means of communication? Do you have another means of getting internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So it's a good time to think about that. And because by the time the water's pouring in, it's too late. So think about it now. And enterprise people, you definitely need to be thinking about this too. I had a client once who I was telling about this, and they were like, yeah. And then two years later, when Hurricane Katrina hit the front of their building and the whole place fell down, they were calling later going, remember that stuff you were telling us? Yeah, we'd like to revisit that now. Well, I get to see him in person tomorrow, but you get to see him today. It's Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
Hey, thank you. And actually, your last story is awesome for me because I wanted to talk about supply chains. And I put 2 articles in the show notes, but it's the same story. The reason is that whether it's a natural disaster like Hurricane Helene, or whether it's a man-made disaster like the dock workers strike that just started at midnight last night, the supply chains can be affected by these disasters significantly. And so in Helene, the short term is, do I have a battery? Do I have my phone? Do I have food and water and things like that? Long term, Helene cut off the only place in the world they can get the ultra pure quartz to get semiconductors built on. So it's entirely possible that in 6 months, we will not be getting many computers out. So it's kind of interesting there. All right. That's literally how they build the semiconductors, which are your CPUs and GPUs and things like that. And that was from Hurricane Helene. There's 1 or 2 sets of mines in the same town down in, I think, Georgia, that are now cut off, and they're not bothering to mine. They're actually taking care of all their people, which is good. Don't get me wrong. That's lovely. But on the same thing, we've got a dock workers strike all up and down the East Coast. And they said that strike is planned to last at least 2 weeks, which experts have said is about to cause 2 to 3 months worth of supply chain disruption on containers coming from places like, China. So your iPhone, you might not be able to get it tomorrow. It might be a month or 2. Your laptop, your bananas Okay, so always understand not just I'm buying these things on a regular basis, but where do all the components come from? All right, fruit, yeah, the components are come from one place. It's a tree or whatever. But when it comes to phones, laptops, servers, network devices, when it comes to anything, where do the components come from? Because I talked to somebody who's a supply chain expert, and he said, look, in the 8th page or the 12th page of some supply chain discussion of a specific product, there's always the only place in the world we can get this component is this one place that is either massive civil unrest, always has tornadoes coming through or whatever. And it's that place that people get really scared about. So in terms of supply chains, and we've talked about this with software, but it matters for your hardware. It matters for your firmware. Hell, after Hurricane Maria a few years ago, it matters for your IV bags. Puerto Rico was basically our nation's provider of IV bags for every hospital in the country. And there was actually a very large shortage of them for quite a time afterwards. So depending on what you're talking about, whether it's healthcare, manufacturing, just computers for your office, whatever, always know where your pieces come from and what a natural or man-made disaster is likely to cause a problem for. You, as an office, as a company, as a person, as a family, are vulnerable to supply chain attacks on software, hardware, firmware, fruit and vegetables, whatever. And you need to make sure that you're cognizant of them at the very least. You understand what's going on there so that you can prepare for, hey, I just want to make sure that in case there's a hurricane, in case there's a dock worker strike or some reason that the containers aren't moving or that the firmware got man in the middled, you get the idea here? And that's what's important. If you want to be a significantly good executive for your unit, whether it's your family unit or your business unit, know where you're getting your stuff from. All right? Dr. Doug gets all his stuff from Mad Magazine. Okay, I get it from National Geographic and, whatever, but you get the idea. Dr. Doug, back to you, sir.
Thank you, Josh. I'll get to see Josh in the morning in real life, which is a rarity. I haven't seen Josh in years in real life, but I have actually seen him occasionally in real life. I think he's real, unless that was just one of those nights when I thought I was seeing Josh and it was really a pumpkin that was laying beside the road or something. It's like, Josh, man, I love you. Yeah, but anyway, I'll see you tomorrow, Josh. Thank you. And finally, CAPTCHAs, how I hate you. How many products have I not bought because I just gave up because I could not determine the constraints around what constitutes a traffic signal? Does it include the pole, the lights, like the bolts holding it to the ground? Maybe it's a stop sign a traffic signal. And then, I hear that voice in my head going, you're overthinking this, Doug. But Dad always said to do your best. I'm trying, Dad. Oh, God, I'm trying. I want to get an A. I really do. But, now we have reCAPTCHAs where, they're supposedly better at stopping bots, but even more effective for me to buy my coffee somewhere else. But according to the study, the use of image rec models now solve the reCAPTCHAs and the CAPTCHAs and all the CAPTCHAs. Originally, they were hitting about 68 to 71% of the time, but they're now, these guys built a YOLO open source bot as a base and then fine-tuned it, and they said they get it every time. So I guess pretty soon, I will just have to get my own YOLO bot, fine-tune it so it can solve the CAPTCHA that says I'm not a bot because, basically, asking me to point out all the possible exhaust ports on a spherical object floating in space. Or you won't be able to get another gin and tonic at the beach bar. I mean, I also learned that a lot of people have spent a lot of time arguing about what a bad design choice it was putting an unshielded exhaust port on the Death Star. I mean, arguing. I'm not even talking about just sort of like, yeah, they did that. It's like, I'm going to argue about this. And why, what was it exhausting? I saw this one site where this guy was going, what was coming out of that exhaust port anyway? What were they exhausting? I'm like, space sewage. Where do you think they put sewage? I mean, how many sewage is generated on the Death Star every single day? I mean, especially on like Taco Wednesday and Darth Vader's having to lift the cape constantly. And there's just giant spray coming out of this exhaust port. Luke better be glad it wasn't that day or things would have been different. I mean, you guys know this is fictional, right? I mean, actually. Anyway, that's the news. Thank you, Josh. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News and Rant.